All right, looks like we are live. So, hello there, optimists. It is me, Michael Cujo, and to my other side here is the Cordis York. I want to welcome you guys to our stream, second in our series here. And I guess, first of all, I need to apologize to everybody. This was supposed to be done weeks ago,
Same,
weeks ago,
same.
but both both Curtis and I just hit life hard. We and it's funny because we were joking last stream about how different we are, but how our lives seem to parallel anyway. And literally, we said we are going to do this, and then both of us got new jobs right around the same time. Like it is uncanny just how that happened, because it's got to be within days of each other that we were both saying, "Hey, we got new jobs." So
Yeah, congratulations on that too, by the way.
yeah, and to you too. To you too. So I see Nikki's here. Hey, Nikki,
Always,
welcome.
always. Shout out to Nikki, man.
And Miss Queen Chantier. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah,
So welcome to you guys. But yeah, we're gonna get going here. This week we are talking about we're going to go through this kind of step by step by step. So we're talking about fatherhood issues, we're talking about blended family issues, we're talking about all that kind of stuff that surrounds it. And so this week we're going to talk a little bit about kind of handling breakups, handling new relationships, especially when it comes to dealing with having kids and blended families and all that kind of stuff, because with life it's always layers on layers on layers, right? And this is definitely another layer that affects not only us as men, but our partners, but our kids, and how everybody interacts. So we thought we would take a little bit of time to chat about that.
yeah. I'm definitely excited. This is a long time coming.
For sure. And we definitely are going to tack down a schedule for this. I'm sure Curtis will agree, but the first couple of weeks when you start a new position, it's always a little bit different, a little bit hairy. You got to get that schedule in, figure out what's going to be what, and when you're going to be able to do things. So we're going to figure that out, and we're gonna get back at it a little bit more regularly. So
My dad says it's hairy. I,
for sure. But yeah, like I said, this week we're going to talk about kind of handling our breakups, handling our new relationships, our kids, and stuff like that. And I guess we'll get right into it. So I'll take up the torch first and give a little bit of a background as to where I've come out of. And Curtis, after that, you can go after me. But yeah, I've got three kids, as most of you guys know. If you've checked out my other channel, MNTV Fam, you guys will know that I've got three beautiful, wonderful, amazing, super, and every other positive attribute that I can apply to them kids. And they were all born from the same mom. And 6 years ago, we our relationship ended, and there will be a whole nother episode, I'm sure, or a whole nother video on all that went through that. But suffice to say, it was not amicable, it was not mutual, and it was not pleasant in any way. Not at all. Not for me, not for our families, not for our kids. It was incredibly difficult, and especially for my older son, who is 16 now. So he was 10 when this all kicked off. So he was old enough to kind of have a bit of an understanding as to what was going on. And that is what made it the most difficult, especially for him and for me, because obviously as parents we want to shield our kids from all the hurt of the world. And it's a lot easier when the kids are younger and they're just into toys and cartoons and stuff like that. But once you're getting to the 10-year-old range, you're starting to look a little bit past your nose, right? And to see the world. And he was seeing mom and dad fighting, and mom would say one thing about dad would say one thing about mom, and he was having to kind of navigate that. So it was incredibly difficult for him, for sure. But as things go, right, I did come into another relationship, and I would say most people would say relatively quickly. And I made the decision, and this is just the way I work, right? And you can take it for take it, or you can leave it for leave it. But the way I work is once you've proven to me that you are no longer interested in me, then there's a sever point, right? There's a sever point. I will try and 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 try until you hit that point, and then that's it, right? It's just like the flick is turned off. And so, to be 100% frank, that switch came for me when she got me put in jail. So, um, and for the high crime of literally sending a text message to her saying, "Can we not work this out?" So she had a what's called an EPO in place, which kind of banned our communication except for kids. And I made the mistake of, saying something about the kids that needed to be said, and then saying, "Can we not work this out?" She sent it to the police, and I spent a night in jail for that.
Hey,
And
hey, you know what I'm gonna say?
right, so I gotta say, I was sitting on that steel bench in a cell with about 10, 15 other guys, and it was literally at that point where I was just like, that's it, right? There's no turning back at this point in time. There's no reconciliation that's going to happen. There's no turning it around at this point that's going to happen. This is done, right? And I had tried up until then, like tried really hard up until then, but you'd be surprised. Spending a night in jail will definitely change your outlook on life. So it will. It just will. So, and once that was turned off, I started looking elsewhere. And as it happens, my eldest son, he had a friend in his elementary school. He was in grade, I guess,
Ooh.
5, and he wanted to have a play date and with his friend. And so I set it up, and I met his mom, and one thing led to the other, and then you know what? I was dating again. So,
So hold on. I gotta stop you. Give us some context. You said what was the time frame in this situation?
it was probably a couple of months to be 100% frank. Now, I mean, but I mean, that few months was months of trying hard, right? I mean, I had lost the kids at that point in time. I wasn't seeing them. I was fighting hard in court to, just get something more than, 2 nights, a night, over the weekend every once in a while. So, but I was still trying to work things out, still trying to do, and she was having none of it at that point in time. But yeah, once, I mean, I mean, this is for adults. So if there's any kids in here, if there's any kids watching the replay, um, parents, I should give this is not a G. This is the not G, right? This
Oh,
is
we going
parent.
there
This is parental
tonight.
guidance. This is parental guidance enough. But to be 100% frank, I mean, I don't think I could lay in a bed and look at somebody every morning who had put me in jail.
Thanks.
Like, I don't like I know I could not do that. I couldn't look at, there's no way I could go back and look, wake up in the morning, say, "Hey dear, hey babe, hey whatever, hey boo," right? Knowing that X amount of days or X amount of months or X amount of years ago, right? Me just saying, "Hey, can't we work this out?" meant that I had to spend a night in jail.
Man,
Right? And the only reason I got out is because, I was, according to the judge, who was hearing my bail hearing the next day, she said, "You were so respectful. You turned yourself in. You have done nothing but cooperate. And seeing what you are charged with, there's no bail, there's no conditions, just go home."
man.
right? And then a few days later, I went to court and they dropped the charges before I ever saw a judge because they said they literally, like the lawyer literally said, we have better things to do than to charge somebody for sending a text message.
Mm.
So, but yeah, to be perfectly frank, there's no way I could, go back and be with somebody who put me in jail. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who can live with that level of drama in their life, but I'm not one of those people. Right? I'm not one of those people. So that is the kids in the snow gotta go. Curtis. Oh man, I can't read the comments while I'm talking. But that's kind of the background of what got me kind of pushed back into the dating world and all that kind of stuff. But out of my from my sensational story, I know your story is a bit more tame, so let's set the groundwork on your side.
Yeah, man. I mean, you set the bar pretty high, brother. I give you a credit there. Yeah. I've never been to jail. No, yeah, but mine was just a long time coming, man. We gonna get real tonight, right? We gonna get real.
Let's get real.
We getting real. So for me, it was more of an accountability thing. At the time, um, so. My oldest son's mother and I, we were together, but it was, I would say at that point, it was like a situationship. I mean, we were together, but we weren't really together, but we were together. It was a mess. I met her in my junior year of college, I want to say. And, even the way it started off was crazy. Like I was talking to two other girls at the same time, and you know, we gonna keep it 100. So,
Oh, hold on. Before you get to 100, because in Canada here, we don't do the whole junior, senior, blah, 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 blah.
my
So
third
just
year.
for the Canadians,
Yeah.
if you can explain, junior year is what, your first year, so grade 10 then?
No.
Or
So
sorry,
in
or
college, in
first year
college,
of
you
college.
have no.
Okay. Okay.
So
Explain. See, I'm
freshman
lost.
is your first year of college, sophomore is your second year, junior would be your third, and then senior would be your fourth. So
Okay.
I was in my third year
Third
of
year.
college
Okay.
for the Canadians. I was in my
Gotcha.
third
Okay.
year of college.
I'm back with you.
Yeah, yeah. So my third year of college, you know, and like I said, at the time I was talking to two other girls. Like I guess she was my girlfriend at the time. I can't like I would let me say I was really what people would consider a F boy. Like I was just out here just really just being young and immature and ignorant and looking back now I would say 30-year-old me would be like, yo, just find one woman, settle down and build with that person. But if I would have told that to 20-year-old me, he probably would have laughed me out the room because that's just not where I was mentally. So,
Yeah.
when I met her, I had two other women that I was kind of talking to or dealing with at the time. And, it was so crazy because they all knew about each other, but it wasn't like, all three of them are my girlfriends. It was like, all right, so you know what's going on over here. I wasn't lying to anybody. So, at the end of the day, even though it may sound crazy, everybody knew what it was. I wasn't really hiding anything. I wasn't really lying or anything like that. And so eventually, because they would fuss and they would fight and they would argue and stuff, but it was rough. But eventually one of them was like, well, this ain't about to keep going on. So you got to pick one. And so I ended up picking the one that had the apartment and the car because at the time I didn't have a car. Like we being real. So
You got to fill the needs. I gotcha.
right at the time, my car was down and out. I didn't have a car. I was living on campus, and she had an apartment. So it's like car, apartment, you win. And that happened to be my child's mother. And looking back again, it just sounds so crazy and so ignorant. Just even telling this story, like if my son came and was like, "Yo, this is what I'm doing right now," I'd immediately tell him to stop. But
Mhm.
that's just where I was at the time. So fast forward. we've been on and off for, let's see, I want to say about 2 years. About 2 years. Yeah. But, you know, she got tired of me and just how I was moving at that time because I was, again, just a totally different person. And that was fair. And, she ends up moving to Charlotte, which is crazy because now I live in Charlotte and she lives in South Carolina. So she moved to Charlotte. I'm living in South Carolina. I'm teaching and everything. And she's working in Charlotte. So I had my own place at this time, like my own house and the whole nine. And she would come on the weekends and stuff because it's a situationship, and I'm still doing my dirt and everything, and just whatever, just being immature. And so eventually, she winds up being pregnant, and well, not she winds up being pregnant. She got pregnant. And I'm like, all right, now I'm going, it's time for me to chill out, get serious, and slow things down, and just try to do right because I want my son to have a single, a two-parent household. That
Mm,
was my thing, and at this point, she's like, all right, bro, like for years, you've just been wilding and you've been doing X, Y, Z, and you've been a horrible, horrible, horrible person. And so, after a while, things got rough and, eventually things just fell apart. Like,
mm,
it wasn't, and I can't really blame her. It was me. Like, it's 100% me. Like, the person that I was and how I was moving out here to say that I wanted a family, the way that I started it off was totally wrong because I should have been moving like that to begin with when we first started talking and when the seeds were planted. But, in my mind, it's like it's not serious until you get married or kids involved, and then it's okay. Well,
mm,
yeah, we're gonna work it out then. But ultimately, she was like, "Nah, it's just too much going on. You've been wilding for too long. I just can't really get past all of the things that you've done over all these years." And so we ended up breaking up. And at that time, we were living together, so I had to move out of the apartment. But
mm.
before I moved out of the apartment, we were still on the lease together, and neither one of us wanted to break the lease because it was going to mess up our credit. So
Yeah.
it was a two-bedroom apartment. So she lived on one side, and I lived on the other side. And you know, it was weird because, we never had company come to the house while the other person was home, but we were literally roommates. Like we didn't touch each other, we didn't mess around or anything. Like, once we broke up, we were broken up. And, of course, women move on. So when she broke up with me, I was hurt. But, she'd already moved on and she already had something else going on. And no disrespect, I'm not mad. This
Mhm.
is almost 10 years ago. So, but yeah, it's like, yeah, she had her own little situation before she moved on, and it was cool. And, for me, it took a little while. And I'd say, because at the time when we broke up, I just quit teaching and I was just getting into real estate and figuring out how that worked and stuff. So it was totally different. I just had to get my life in order before I even thought about really dating like that. But then I gradually got back out there and just started dating. And, after I broke up with my child's mother, I didn't really have a girlfriend until like a year later. Like I was just out again, just
Mm.
being young, just living life. And then
Yeah.
eventually, I did have a girlfriend and that didn't work out. And I think I had another girlfriend and that didn't work out. And then I met my wife. So
And
yeah.
that worked out.
Yeah, and we're still married. So yeah. Yeah,
That's good
man.
stuff. So just to take one step back, and then I'm going to move forward onto something that you touched on. But so how long did you guys actually like stay in the same apartment while like bro like because that's got to have been a little awkward, eh?
Okay, so
Oh, that
yeah,
was so
good question.
Canadian of me, eh?
Yeah, that was a good question. So, let me see. We moved in February, and we made it to about June. June, June. So what's that? February, March, April, May, June. 4 months. And so, from June. into the next February because the lease was up in
Oh wow.
February. So from June to February, we lived together and we were literally roommates. What, that's July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. 8 months. Eight
Wow.
months we were roommates. And we lived together and like I said, we wasn't touching each other. We wasn't like it was just 8 months of having a
Mhm.
roommate.
Yeah. Wow, crazy. But so you talked about how kind of your son's mom kind of moved on pretty quick, but talk about like your process to grieving. I'll talk about mine after, but since you're already in your story, like what did that look like as far as, hey, I'm not in this relationship anymore. There's a child coming, and now what's my life going to look like? How did that grieving process kind of work out?
Oh, the child was here. Like we were the child was so my son was born in April. We moved together in February. So it was like, hold on, hold on. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So my son was 1 when we moved in together because when she told me she was pregnant, I let the lease run out on my spot that I was staying at the time, and I moved back home so I could save money and get an apartment and that we could live together in. Which thinking back now, I probably should have just kept the house and did that. But young brain, not knowing better, I moved
Mhm.
back and I saved money so that we could move together. Oh yeah, she wanted to live in Columbia, so where I was living at the time was about 45 minutes away, so it wouldn't have worked out anyway. But yeah, I ended up doing that, saving money so I could move to Columbia because the rent costed more in that city than where I was. So when we finally did move together, my son was almost 1. Coy was almost 1 at that time.
Okay.
And so, when it happened, when she finally broke up with me, again, it was a shock because it's like, at this point, like I'm not even doing nothing. Like I ain't really cheating or messing around or nothing. Like I'm really trying to do the right thing, but the
Mm,
damage was already done. So I was shocked, of course, and I was like, man, this is crazy. I didn't see this coming, but the signs were there, and
mm,
it's crazy how you look back and you can see the signs were there, but me just being in my own head,
mhm,
oblivious to the whole situation, I had no idea. So it was shocking for me, and I'm not one of those people that sit up here and act super tough and be like, yeah, that didn't hurt my feelings and I was cool. Like, no, I was really in my feelings. I'm like, dang, like it's
mhm,
crazy. And it took me a little while before I started dating again. And even with that, like the only woman that has ever met Coy is my wife, as far as even girlfriends. Like I've had two girlfriends, and neither one of them met Coy.
mhm,
And so, that was just, I don't know, that was always weird to me. Like, I wasn't really trying to introduce him to no women unless I planned on being with that woman. And so, yeah, but again, to get back to the actual question, like, yeah, I agreed, man. It was rough, man. Like, granted, again, I was the one in the wrong. So,
yeah,
I didn't really have any right to grieve, but my feelings were hurt.
yeah, sure. No, I get it. And I mean, from my side too, I'll say, I mean, I already said, I kind of got back once that switch flipped, right? I was done. But in the space between there, right, I was like, I remember one probably was like a couple of days after she had left, and I was literally face down on the floor. My parents were there too, and I just like I could barely even move because I was just so shocked as to what was going on, and it took me days to even get to the point of leaving the house to get food or anything like
But
that.
to
Like I
be
was just
fair, you had a lot of other stuff going on. Like it was all of that that hit you at once. Because not only was it the divorce and the new relationship. Did you say that? I think I'm giving spoilers, but just you had a lot of different situations that happened at once. So I could understand why you felt defeated. Like I felt bad, but at the same time, it's like, I it's
yeah,
fair. I brought this on myself, like you, but your situation though, it was You got to go in detail and explain like
Yeah.
why your
So, I mean,
situation.
sure. And I mean, recap from last stream because it's been so long now, so you guys have all forgotten. I get it. But I mean, I was with my kid's mom for just shy of 11 years, right? And I mean, I was like we were together, we were good, we were solid. I was doing pastoring at a church. It wasn't a healthy church, and that was part of the thing, but I was there. I was also doing photography, pretty high level stuff, and we were doing that all together. And just the circumstances, we realized that we couldn't stay at the church that we were at and continue pastoring. So we got out of that. So I stopped being Pastor Mike, and within very short order, we realized that I wasn't going to get a job as a pastor somewhere else while still, doing photography of models and, boudoirs and all that other stuff that I was doing. And I mean, to be 1,000% clear, right? There is nothing in the Bible that says you can't do those sorts of things or whatever. But in North America, we have gotten so weird about sexuality and the female body and, well, just bodies in general, right? Nude and nudity and all that. We're weird about it, like super weird about it. So I realized I wasn't going to get a job again as a pastor while I was still doing that type of stuff. Not that it was bad, not that it was sinful, but it was just going to make life difficult. So in a very short amount of time, I stopped being Pastor Mike. I stopped being photographer Mike, and that was 99% of who I was besides being a father and a husband, right? Like that was my identity. And for the girls watching, I mean, your man's identity is invariably going to be wrapped up in what he does, right? What we do is very important to us, right? We feel as men that if we are not able to provide, if we are not able to do, then our self-worth goes through the shitter, right? Right on down. It's important to us, right? I mean, even the guys are like, hey, no big thing or whatever, not. It is a big thing, right? I defy you to find a guy who actually really feels like he don't got to do nothing for his woman, right? Every guy feels that way, and even if they say they don't, they do, right? They
Take
may
it from a
want
guy
to.
who was unemployed for the last 8 months.
I hear you, right? It hits you.
Which
It hits
everything
you.
you're saying is true. Hey,
It hits you. So, I mean, I was down in the dumps because of that, because I had literally gone from, and I mean, we were not making tons of cash or anything like that. Being a pastor is not a rich profession. And in fact, the church that I was at wasn't paying me, which was part of the problem, right? And the photography was not making us rich either, but at least I was doing something, right? At least I was making a difference in people's lives, either by teaching them, God's word or whatever, not, or taking pictures of them, making them feel good about themselves, that kind of thing. At least I was doing something, and then in very short order I was not doing anything at all. So that hit me, and then it was out of that came the breakup as well. So it was pretty well devastating, right? I'm not going to mince words. It was pretty devastating. So
and then it's also important to admit to say this was your wife. This wasn't like a girlfriend or something like that.
yep,
Y'all were married, right?
yep, yep, we had just passed a decade together, right? And we were like, if you go to the church that we were at to this day, right, they will tell you that everybody there was shocked because we were the couple that the other couples wanted to be like, right? That was who we were, and that's who I tried hard to be, not as a front, not as a mask, not as a blah 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 blah. I was real with people. Like, people knew that we weren't perfect, right? It wasn't that type of thing like, oh man, they're the perfect couple, nothing ever goes wrong for them. I was real with them. Like, when I preached, I was real, right? There was no
Mm.
part of me that was like, oh, everything's perfect for us, we don't have any issues or anything like that. We were real. So, people knew that. So yeah, it hit pretty hard, right? And the grieving process was there, right from denial through to anger through to everything else, until I got thrown in jail. And then it was just like, okay, we're done here, right? It's clearly not going to go back. And I realized at that point in time that, nope, for my own sanity, self worth, health, and for the kids, I have to move on, right? I had to move on. right? And it happened that, I met somebody and, out of circumstance, right? I wasn't looking. I was not looking, right? But she came just at the time out of a play date with, my son, and we hit it off. And she lived very, very close to me, like literally just across the alleyway from me anyway. So we hit it off. So but let's talk a little bit. I'm looking at the time too, so I want to be mindful of that. But let's talk about some of the things that helped you heal, as far as I'm concerned, and things that helped me kind of heal and move forward and such like that was getting back into hobbies. So everybody still nowadays still asks me, "Oh, do you do photography still?" Answer is no. No, I don't. And you have to be in a certain frame of mind, I think, to do art like that. Like you can't go and photograph somebody's wedding and make them look all lovey-dovey and happy while you're going through a divorce. I just don't think you can do good art that way. Maybe I'm crazy, but whatever. But getting into some new hobbies, throwing myself into the kids and all that kind of stuff are things that really helped me kind of heal and move forward from that, and just kind of doing some self-reflection. And I mean, self-reflection is not easy, and especially us guys are really, really bad at it. But I had to, reflect on myself and really sit down and think, okay, what did I do? Right. And I'm not going to say I was perfect throughout, what preceded our breakup and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure I was really, really rough to live with, during those hard times, right? No doubt about it. But doing that self-reflection and seeing, where did I go wrong and where did I not go wrong? Because if you're going to be honest with yourself, the honest truth is nobody is 100% perfect, but also nobody's 100% bad, right? It's not a thing. But what helped you kind of get to the point where you felt like you could move on and move forward and get back into the quote unquote dating world and whatever?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think what helped me, um, I don't know. After a while, it was just like, what else is there to do? I mean, I did go through a period where I tried to, make things work and figure it out. And then,
Mhm.
like you, once it was realized, I didn't have to go to jail to realize that it wasn't, say it wasn't going to happen. So thanks to that, but, what's the saying? Time heals all wounds, man. Just the more you
Yeah,
live, the easier it gets, the better things get.
yeah,
Um, oh, yeah, I don't know, man. I guess it was just life, man. But I have one for you.
yeah. Go
So,
for it.
I had one child, and
Mhm.
dating with one child is it's different. There's certain women that you just can never talk to because they don't talk to men with children, so
Mhm.
they're completely off your list forever. But you had three at the time, so what was that like?
Well, and I mean, this is the thing. It wasn't that hard because the girl that I met also had kids, right? So she lived very close, so it wasn't like we were driving here or there or anything like that. She had four kids and was also had it broken up, so she had a schedule going on. I had a schedule going on, so we had times when we had all the kids together, seven kids together in a house with us. We had those times, but we also had times when there was no kids around, so we had that kind of, you know, adult time, if you want to
So let
call
me
it that.
rephrase this because I see you keep speaking in the past tense. You're not married now, are you?
No, 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 no.
But you are in a relationship.
Yeah, that's lucky number three, I guess.
Okay, so
So I was with one girl, and we were together for just about 5 years, actually, after the
man,
after the relationship ended. So there was my kid's mother, and then got out of that, got in with another girl. She was the one with the kids, and that ended last year. Actually, it ended last year. So we were together for 4.5 or so years. So this
man.
is me. Once I'm committed to you, I'm committed to you, right? Like I'm not one of those guys who's like there, and everywhere. Like I do commitment,
That's dope.
right? That's
That's
that's what I do, right? And I mean, so it is what. So we're on number three now, and I mean, to be fair, she has a child as well, but she's also out of the country, so that's a whole different kettle of wax because we're doing the whole distance thing.
man.
But it does make it a little bit easier to be 100% frank, because I have a lot of time to focus on me and making sure that, once she can come into the country, that I am the best man that I can be, right? Moving forward. I've, learned a lot of hard lessons, right? I've
Yeah, you
made
don't play
some
in the snow
mistakes and
no
such like
more.
that. Don't play in the snow no more. Look, I'm Canadian. Oh man, do I have that? Oh, yeah, I do. Sorry, this is important.
Mm,
Because you brought it up. It's right there.
yeah.
Because you brought it up. This is the life that I led, okay, up until recently. Like, this is Canada. We don't play race like you guys do in the States. I'm gonna be perfectly frank. We're not like that, right? But Alberta is, like, when I was growing up, Alberta here, 99% white, right? And it's getting more multicultural, but my mother sent this to me the other day, right? This is me in grade school. And I'm
Wow.
sure you can find me,
Whoa.
right? I'm sure
Yeah.
you can find me, right? And this is not
Yeah.
different than any other class picture I have ever had, literally,
Wow.
right? So,
Wow.
like, like you say, don't play in the snow, but who was I going to play with? Right? These kids are all
Yeah,
my
bro.
age now. I didn't
Yeah,
have a lot of options, right? I didn't have a lot of
yeah,
options.
yeah,
So,
man, my bad. I'm telling you not to play in the snow and you in the blizzard. You don't have a choice.
oh man. But yeah, so we're into a new thing. Nikki's asking here too, since she's got a question. She's asking how long have I been in my new committed relationship, and we're gonna hit a year on July 2nd, actually. So that'll be our 1 year, right? So, oh, and she's got one more question here. I said we don't play a race like that, but do you think those households feel the same? Yeah, I do feel that they like, uh, and this is a whole separate thing. I'm going to get into the chat later. I'm going to tell you about something that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. It's not for here, but I think for the most part here, like, race issues are not, like, there are race issues. Don't get me wrong. And when I get into the chat later on with you guys, you'll hear. But it's but it's just not as big of a thing. Like,
Mhm.
there was no family, no parents that I ever had an issue with dating young white women when I was young, right? There was none of them that were like, not my daughter, right? Never had no, never had no shotgun on the porch or anything like that. Never happened. Not once, right? And I mean, as you can see, like, clearly the majority of my friends were and have always been white, because we're just not, it's just not as big of a thing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are still people who are cuckoo in the head when it comes to the color of your skin, but it's not as pronounced here as it is in the States. That's for sure. That's for
Mm.
sure. But yeah. Yeah. Talk about, now that you've been in a relationship, your son is growing up. He's 8 now, right?
Nine, yeah.
9, right? Because he just had his birthday in April,
Mhm.
was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, like, new relationships and how that kind of merges in with the kids and such like that. Because I mean, you've got a kid, obviously, and I know you talked a little bit about, like, in some of your relationships, like, they never met your kid or anything like that. But maybe talk about how things came to be that you decided that the time was right to introduce your son to, a another female that wasn't his mother.
Yeah. Well, I knew my wife was gonna be my wife, so that made it very easy. I'm like, I never really thought that I would settle down or commit with somebody like that. So, you said you were like the guy, once you there, you committed.
Hmm.
For me, it was like, when I commit, I'm going to commit. So let me just not commit for a while. So that
Hmm.
way, when I commit, I know that I'm going to commit for real, for real. So, that's why I really didn't feel the need for anybody to, meet Coy or come around him or spend time with him unless I knew that that was going to be the person that I was going to be with. So I think that part wasn't really that difficult. Or it wasn't really, there just wasn't much there, I guess. That was just the way that I had it set up in my mind. Like, that's, unless we're going to be extremely serious, then, there's no need for you to meet Coy because, I don't want him thinking that, it's just a revolving door and there's just a bunch of women that's just hanging out and, anything like that. That's never what I wanted to present to him. So I just always kept that separate, like church and state. Like, whatever we have going on over here, that's cool, and maybe one day you can meet him, and I always played it like it was a privilege thing. Like, hey, maybe if we get serious enough, you can meet him, but nobody ever was that serious except for my wife. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Did the other woman like that you dated, did they like ask? Like was there any of them like, "Hey, when are we gonna meet your boy?" Like anything like that? Or was it just one of those things like you just kinda like it you never let it come up type of deal?
Well, I mean, it would come up. I mean, it's hard to ignore a whole kid. Like, you can't just, because I mean, that would have been a red flag anyway. So, people are socially aware and they know how to at least fake like they're interested just to keep something going on if they want to be with somebody. So it was never a thing where we just acted like I didn't have a child. I mean, we would talk
Mm,
about them or, maybe we might FaceTime and he might walk by or something like that. But as far as
mm.
us going bowling or, doing a little date and he's there, nah, that never really happened.
Yeah,
That
for
never
sure.
happened. Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, from my end, it was a little bit easier, like I said, because the woman that I got involved with had kids, and our kids kind of meshed in ages and all that, so they kind of naturally had their kind of play partner pair within the thing. So it was a lot easier that way. They were always involved. And one of the things that I did, and I mean, I don't know where you came at things with Koi, especially when it comes to your now wife, but I was very clear, especially with Isaac. My two younger ones were too young, but my older one, because he was instrumental in me meeting her in the first place. And I have always been open and frank with my oldest son. Even to this day, right now, we have very frank and open conversations. But I was very clear with him that he had a part to play in whether the relationship kind of continued and moved in certain ways. That's not to say that he is, that he has all the power, but I was open and honest with him that his thoughts on the matter were valuable to me, right? Like if he said, "Hey, I hate this person," right, that would weigh heavily on whether that relationship continued because they're my kids, right? And my priority has to be them. And that's not, like I said, it's not to say that, oh my gosh, like whatever my kids say goes, because then it's not a parent child relationship. But, if you're going to get into a relationship and it's clear that your kids don't like them or are going to have issues with them or they're red flags, then it behooved me to make sure that that wasn't going to be the case, that I was also listening and open to my children's, especially my oldest child. He kind of speaks for the group of kids, right? He's always been kind of their spokesperson, right? So kind of giving him the openness to say, "Hey, dad, this is a problem," or "Hey, dad, I really like her, keep going," right? And it did work out that way. Like he was the first one to start noticing the red flags, right, in the relationship. And he mentioned them. And I said, "Okay, okay, okay." And I said, "This is what we do, son. Like when there's an issue, we try to work on it." So we tried to work on issues, right? And it did end up ending, right, as is pretty clear, right? But it was a lot healthier of a ending. Not to say it wasn't without drama, but it was a lot healthier of an ending. And my kids were a lot more at ease with how it ended because they had kind of been involved in, some of those talks amongst us to say, hey, there's a problem here. And they felt open enough, like even my younger ones felt open enough to say, hey, I had this problem happen with her daughter or her son or whatever not. Right. And I feel like,
Mm,
especially as parents, as adults, sometimes we forget that our kids' opinions actually should have bearings on our lives, and we kind of shut them out and we just say, hey, this is an adult thing, so you just go over there and play, and I'm going to do the adult thing over here, and never the two shall meet. But sometimes our kids are very perceptive, and sometimes they'll notice, something either good or bad before we ever do, because, especially as guys, we don't always think up here. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Right? Not
Right.
not always. So yeah, so I mean, I personally think, it's pretty important to keep kind of open communication, with the kids. That's, like I said, not to say that they get, final say, or that they have veto power or whatever not, but it's, it's good to keep open lines of communication. I get, and that's something that I've always done with my youngest one. I remember actually the first time I saw my kids after the breakup, it was about 2 weeks later, and I took my eldest son for a walk. And I literally said, you know what? We're gonna have a man-to-man talk. Right? And I told him very clearly that, things weren't gonna change. He was still gonna get in trouble for the same things he got in trouble for. He was still gonna get praised for the same thing. That I wasn't gonna bribe him to be with me and all those kind of things, because I wanted to set the ground rules right up front and let him know exactly where things, kind of stood. And I think it's something that really set the tone well for the rest of this time. And we've had that open relationship where he can come to me and he doesn't feel like if he says something to me, it's just like I'm going to rain down thunder on him. That he's had that kind of openness to say, hey, dad, I'm noticing this, or hey, dad, I see this, or, or whatever not. So,
that's dope. Man. That's dope. It's a beautiful thing.
yeah, that was me. But let's move on from the kids. I'm trying to keep to my schedule here because I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking at the time. But what can you like? I know you said you didn't. I rush through everything. That's me. Like I am not the kind of patient guy who just says, okay, this chapter is ended. We'll wait a year or two or whatever for the next chapter to open. I don't work like that,
Mm,
right? But it sounds like you were pretty patient on what that next chapter of your life was going to be after your breakup, and coming into your new relationships and stuff like that. So maybe talk about that a second. What got you from breakup to, okay, we can get into new relationships, and I'm cool and I'm good and I'm ready to get there. How did you get from A to B, I guess?
so I don't think
I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So, you know how you say you go from relationship to relationship to relationship, right?
Hmm.
Because I need you to follow me. So when I say that,
I wasn't in relationships.
that doesn't mean that I was just
Just sitting on my hands, like, oh man, maybe we'll figure. Like I had people. I was involved in with women. I think honestly, and this is probably gonna go deep. I didn't think I'd be going here, but honestly, it was kind of like a crutch type of situation. Like, you know, earlier you were talking about when men aren't producing, they, feel down. And for me, I feel like when I was feeling down, I found ways to deal with that. And a good way to deal with that is, having women around. Like it's just a confidence booster. It's something that you can say, you know what? I might not be on my A game right now, but she likes it. So hey, and
Hmm.
so, that can really become a bad habit if you don't manage it and control it. So, at first it was, all right, I'll just, have this little situation to get over this and deal with it. It becomes a coping mechanism. And,
Hmm.
I'm not going to say that it was a drug or anything like that, but I could see how, people could use it and it goes that far and they go there. And
Hmm.
I don't think that I was that type of person, but it was definitely a coping mechanism to be able to call somebody and be like, hey, I'm bored, come over, and they'll come over, and it. So I think that was probably also the other reason why I didn't really bring those women around anyway, because it wasn't like anything that I really took seriously in the first place. So I didn't want to put that out there either. So I think, that was really a lot of the coping. But I've always been a big reader. So I read a lot of books.
Hmm.
And then there was even a year where I just didn't date at all. Like I just took a year off and like I just really need to fix my life and get myself in order and work on
Hmm.
myself. And, that was a year I just read a lot of books. I went to work, I came home, and I just focused on me. And,
Yeah.
I think those types of things kind of got me aligned and got me right and helped me become better as a father and just as a person in general, just
Hmm.
taking time to fix me and work on what I had going on. And I think that, not only as parents, but it is well, is it men's mental? I think it's Men's Mental Health Month here in America also. So, just taking time to prioritize your mental health and making sure that you're being the best possible version of yourself and you are taking how you feel seriously and you're working on those things and not just letting them linger or finding little band-aids or things to make you feel better in the moment but not really dealing with the issue. A lot of people have problems and they focus on the symptoms instead of dealing with the actual problem.
Hmm.
If you get a flat tire over and over and over again, that means something's wrong with the tire.
Hmm.
So, you got to figure out what's wrong with the tire instead of just buying a bunch of replacement tires. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of us have the habit of just, focusing on the small things instead of dealing with the things that really matter and can really move the needle. So,
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
I don't know. I hope that answered the question. I kind of went on
No,
a monologue
no,
there, but
it's
I
good.
hope
It's
it
good.
it tracked.
No, it tracks. So let's maybe tie this up in a bow, kind of come full circle, and just talk briefly about, what it was like when you finally got to the point of actually introducing your child to, your wife, what that looked like when it came around. I mean, for me, again, it was easy because she had kids, I had kids, and they kind of all just kind of naturally paired off. So they wanted to be together. So for me, it was very, very easy because
Right,
kind of the kids were integral in us having come together in the first place. But,
right.
when did you decide it was the time to introduce your son to who you were dating at the time? I'm assuming by then.
Yeah.
And what did that look like? How did you handle that? How did you get to the point of, hey boy, this is
um, we went. I don't know. I guess in that case, it was just a situation. Well, she didn't have any kids at the time, so it was just, hey, I really like you. I want you to meet my son, and nobody else has ever met my son, and I really want to be with you. So, do you want to meet my son? And she was like, yeah, cool, whatever. And so we went to this dinosaur exhibit or something like that, just to kind of test the waters out. And even before, I did tell him like, hey, I have a girlfriend, and because he'd never known me to have a girlfriend. So it's like, hey, I have a
Mhm,
girlfriend. You'll meet her soon, and she'll be coming around, and you know, obviously she's not going to infringe on our time and what we have going on. And like you
mhm.
said, what you feel and how you feel about her. If you don't like her, then obviously, then it's not gonna work out because it just won't. And so the first time we went to this dinosaur exhibit, it was like a drive-through dinosaur exhibit, and
Mhm.
it was awkward. It was a new experience. It was awkward for everybody, I think, because she didn't really date anybody with children before, and I never really had anybody around, so I was nervous. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. It was a very, very nervous experience for me, but everything just felt so natural, and it just kind of fell into place. And obviously there was some adjusting and some working around, but in the end, it kind of just all blended together. And so, I don't know. I guess I just got lucky.
Hey, nothing wrong with just nothing wrong with just getting lucky. So, and I guess the last kind of question that kind of brings it into full is, and I wish we had like a whole hour to talk just about this time. We might have to split this off into a second thing, but kind of that relationship between, or that intersection between kids' moms,
Oh
your
no, that's got
family.
to be a
Why?
whole no. That's got to be its own
On
entire
that
no. There's
that no,
no
that's what
way that
I.
I could just cram that. No,
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 and that's fair enough because
hmm
I can tell stories all day about how that mix and
Yeah.
mash worked and didn't work or whatever. So do you know what? This is what we're gonna do because it is just coming on 7 o'clock. We've been at this for an hour. I think it's fair enough to put a pin in it there, and we can come back at that topic. And for those who are watching this right now and who are watching in the replay, we still have plenty of topics to hit. We're gonna hit obviously this intersection between families and all that blending and all that kind of stuff. Clear, clearly, Curtis and I have had,
Man.
very, you know, we've had different experiences. So we're definitely going to talk about those. We want to talk about, oh, what have I got in my board up here? Kids and religion. We've got the extended family to talk about and come up with, and all that other kind of stuff. So we have definitely got lots of different things that we want to talk about. Looks like, oh nope, Chris is back. There you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
So I want to thank, first of all, Curtis for chilling out with me again. Like I said, I know we've had a hard time getting this together because we
Man.
both started jobs and life just started life and real hard, but we're going to find a regular schedule and we're going to get to that. So I definitely want to thank you for joining me on this journey, episode number 2. That's really awesome. Um, I definitely want to thank those who have joined us live today. Nikki P, I see you. Thank you. Queen, I see you. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys coming in here and showing your support. It's been really great, and your questions have been awesome, and just seeing you guys in the chat. So I really want to thank you guys as well. I want to put another shout out to Alicia. I know she's not here today, but she's definitely was instrumental in getting us to start doing this, so thanks to her as well. Thanks to
hmm
our Facebook group who have been showing support to our channels and all that kind of stuff. Thanks to our families and our kids who have allowed us the time to do this, right? Because I mean, it's taken an hour out of Curtis's day in life, an hour out of mine, and so on and so forth. So just thanks to everybody who has been instrumental in helping us get this out and helping us touch this off. And I really, really hope that you guys will join us again. We will get there. We will get regular with this. Just be patient with us while we sort out, the life and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, unless you got any last thoughts there, Curtis, I think that's it for the day.
I think you summed it up great, man. I'm just happy to be here, and I'm happy that we made it happen again. So,
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, everybody, we're going to sign off here. And again, just thank you guys so much for joining us. And until next time, stay optimistic. I'm gonna find a catchphrase. I'm gonna find a catchphrase. But anyway, have a good one, everybody. See you soon.